Today's show examines the biological and moral morass as we Americans have created in the supposed advancement of medical research. For instance, in vitro fertilization is one such biological advancement where life is created in a petri dish. Did we race into this activity of pregnancy implantation without looking at the moral and psychological consequences? How about all those frozen embryos in America left over? And have we created a moral morass with what to do with these leftover embryos? And how about the embryos that are implanted and successfully gestate through pregnancy? Does this procedure represent the pursuit of a procreative aim in strict separation from the conjugal act of marriage? And finally, this lust for biological and supposed medical advancement leads us down the path to embryonic stem cell research and cloning. Today we examine how one politician from West Roxbury tried to justify herself in doing away with a key Massachusetts law that protected life after conception from biological and medical research, and voted for cloning human life and killing human life at the embryonic stage of life. I think you'll find today's show to be unique, informative, content-rich, truthful, and thought-provoking. Today's guest has a unique and pertinent background to discuss the biological and medical morass that we, as a society, find ourselves in. Our guest is a Catholic priest from the Diocese of Fall River, Massachusetts. As an undergraduate, he earned a philosophy, biochemistry, molecular cell biology, and chemistry degree. He also did laboratory research on hormonal regulation of the immune response. He has later earned a Ph.D. in neuroscience from Yale University, where he focused on cloning genes for the neurotransmitter transporters, which are expressed in the brain. He has also worked here in Boston at the Massachusetts General Hospital Harvard Medical School complex. From a bioethics perspective, he has studied for 5 years in Rome, where he did advanced work in dogmatic theology and bioethics, examining the question of delayed ensoulment of the human embryo. He has also testified before Massachusetts and Wisconsin legislators during the deliberations over a bill to ban human cloning. Welcome, the Reverend Dr. Tad Pacholczyk.
Great to be with you, Brendan. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Before we get started, I'd just like to mention the call-in phone number. Should you, our audience, have a question for our guest, the number is 617-973-4848. Well, Father Tad, with medical advancement of in vitro fertilization, did we as a society open a can of worms that has created a biological or moral morass that we have today?
Definitely, Brendan. The issue of in vitro fertilization, I think people don't realize just how much of a slippery slope we're talking about here. Slippery slopes are slopes that you put your foot on, but you tell yourself, well, we won't slide. We have good ethical controls. We have good management. We have good oversight. We might have some committees that will deal with the issue. And so one kind of softly says to oneself, we can do this and there shouldn't be any consequences. Well, in vitro fertilization proceeded in that way, proceeded because what was driving it were two forces. One was the desire for a child by couples who are struggling with infertility, and the second was an industry that was rapidly emerging that recognized the opportunity to generate large sums of money by attempting to address that desire of the couple. So what happened is that in vitro fertilization began in 1978 with the birth of the first in vitro child in Great Britain. Louise Brown was her name. And since then we have had 1 million children born by in vitro fertilization.
Wow, I had no idea it was that.
It's very significant numbers that we're looking at. It has become very common, and it is a practice that is done not only by the general population, but probably at the same rate by Catholics as well. Many Catholics are not well aware of the moral and ethical issues associated with in vitro fertilization. So to round out the question, the issue here is that when we began down this pathway, there was not even an inkling that it would later lead us to the point of making human embryos for the explicit and premeditated purpose of destroying those embryos for research programs. But that's where we find ourselves today with the stem cell debate. In other words, the stem cell debate grew right out of the in vitro fertilization first step. So we ended up with a situation where we have more now than 450,000 frozen human embryos in the United States. And that has been the stepping stone into the stem cell discussion, because people are saying, well, we have these embryos frozen, these young human beings who are trapped in liquid nitrogen, give us some of them so that we can do the experiments that we want to do. So there is a very, very clear connection when you say, have we gotten into a morass? Yes, we have. We're in a very, very difficult situation, and it should push us back to asking, you know, should we, in fact, ever do in vitro fertilization or not?
I've had Dr. Paul Carpentier here from Napro Technology, and I know that he was mentioning to me that instead of having several embryos, it's only one embryo at a time, and it's done under Catholic teachings of, I think, the Pope in 1968, which was Pope Paul VI, was it? Or
it was, yes, Paul VI. Well, Dr. Carpentier does remarkable work. What he does is he addresses infertility, but in a different way, not by doing in vitro fertilization at all, in any way, shape, or form. What he rather does is look at the cause of the infertility. Why can't the couple have a baby of their own? What's going on here? Are her fallopian tubes blocked? Could we do a surgery that would fix that? Does he have low sperm count for some reason? Might we be able to treat him with some drug, or even do a surgery that would help his sperm count to be increased, so that then husband and wife could have normal marital relations and conceive? And there are many other kinds of interventions that actually address the cause of the infertility. And those are going to be morally acceptable, morally praiseworthy, morally laudable as attempts to try to achieve a pregnancy. But if you take a different series of steps where you use a man and a woman only as donors of their egg and their sperm, and then mix that egg and sperm together like you're mixing a recipe in a kitchen to generate young human beings in laboratory glassware, this is always going to be immoral, because what you are doing is treating then the embryo and the young human as a product to be manipulated, to be manhandled. Some embryos will be thrown away as if they were trash. Others will be frozen. So there's an inherent depersonalizing kind of activity that's involved with in vitro fertilization. Not, on the other hand, with the Napro technology that you mentioned, that Dr. Carpentier works with, because that really attempts to fix what the problem is with the infertility that the couple is experiencing.
Well, now, was there back, I guess, when in vitro started, was there widespread discussion of the moral and psychological implications of the process in a petri dish before society accepted it so widely?
Well, you know, there was some discussion. There was a clear sense that this was a new boundary that was being crossed. I think people tuned into that right away, if you will. But was there sufficient moral reflection? Was there really attention paid to all the possible